Adrian was rumored to be having an affair with an actress in the play. To help him clear his name, I showed up to support him, baby bump and all. But then the chandelier crashed down on the stage, and Adrian instantly shielded the scandal-ridden actress Bella beneath him. I, on the other hand, was pushed to the floor by the panicked crowd, watching him in despair and helplessness. He didn't even glance my way. Instead, he scowled and barked at me, "Vivian, why are you making trouble at a time like this?" With that, he carried the woman past me and left me alone to face the swarm of reporters. When the reporters cornered me asking whether Adrian's affair was true and if the online divorce rumors were real, I didn't elaborate. I simply addressed the gossip head-on. "It's true. We're getting divorced." Before we continue, subscribe to my channel and tell me where you're tuning in from. Looking at the stunned reporters, I repeated, "Yes. We are divorcing." Gasps rippled through the crowd, everyone stared at one another, clearly caught off guard. In the past, whenever Adrian's name was linked to even the tiniest scandal, I had always stepped forward immediately to defend him. But after today, after watching him carry another woman away without a care, abandoning his 7-month pregnant wife, such loyalty would never happen again. As the most rebellious heiress of Sterling, I had publicly rejected a corporate marriage and insisted on marrying a Broadway actor. And now, Adrian, caring nothing for his pregnant wife at home, was tangled up with his co-star. I knew this bombshell would land on the front page tomorrow. I shoved through the reporters, but they kept coming. Just then my assistant Mason burst in with several bodyguards. "Damn it, who said you could shove my sister?" Ignoring his own thin frame, he slammed into the throng and forced a path open. The guards closed in and hustled me into the car. Maybe the jostling had brought on labor. My belly hurt so badly I should've. D to the driver, "Get me to Eastbrook, now." Hours later I woke in a private suite at Eastbrook. Mason sat beside the bed, eyes rimmed red. The doctor said that, luckily, I was already late term and the baby was tough, nothing critical had happened. But Mason couldn't swallow his rage. He punched the bed frame, panting. "That bastard Adrian didn't give a damn. He knew you were 7 months along." I lowered my head. Images of Adrian clutching Bella flashed again and again, and my heart sank to the floor. In that instant when our eyes met, he had clearly seen me tumble among the seats, yet he looked right through me. The urgency, the protectiveness he showed Bella, he had never shown that to me. Even when I'd been hospitalized before, Adrian had merely reminded me to take my medicine. He never threw himself in harm's way. Maybe he'd fallen out of love long ago, sometime after we married. Seeing me silent, Mason feared I'd make myself sick and wanted Adrian to explain. He dialed Adrian on speaker in front of me. Call after call rang unanswered, and just as Mason was about to give up, Adrian's voice came through. "Mason, what is it?" "I'm busy. Cross, my sister is at Eastbrook. Do you even know she almost died at the Grand? She's carrying your child. Aren't you afraid something could happen to her?" Adrian was silent for a second, then gave a short laugh. "Her? In danger? I'd be more surprised if she weren't stirring up drama. You ditched my sister for that actress. Have you no shame?" Mason couldn't stop himself. "Watch your tone. I've told you, Bella and I are colleagues, nothing more. Stop bothering me." With that, Adrian hung up. He never even asked how I was. The retort stuck in Mason's throat. He was furious but speechless. After a long while, I gave a calm smile and said, "Mason, I've decided on divorce. Draft the papers tomorrow. And don't tell my father yet." Once Mason left, the suite fell silent, so quiet I could hear my own pulse. I lifted my hand. On my ring. G finger was the 4-leaf clover wedding band Adrian had custom made by a college friend abroad when he proposed. He knew I loved 4-leaf clovers, so he had the band carved with an openwork clover and our initials engraved inside. The day he slipped it on, Adrian had cried so hard his eyes were swollen, promising without a hint of dignity, "Vivian, as long as you're with me, I swear I'll never let you suffer." Under everyone's gaze we kissed, sealing that moment of bliss. When did it all change? A few months ago, Adrian suddenly became busier, leaving early and returning late. I had just gotten pregnant, mood swings and all, clinging to him with endless questions. One night, drunk, he'd finally had enough and shoved me to the floor, snarling, "Vivian, will you ever quit? Don't you have anything better to do? Do you know how annoying you are?" No one had ever yelled at me like that. I stood frozen, tears falling silently. And as Adrian stormed off in irritation, I spotted the hickey on his neck. The next morning, sober, Adrian realized what he'd done and knelt by my bed to apologize. "I'm sorry, Vivian. Rehearsals for the new show at the Grand are stressing me out. I didn't mean to take it out on you." "And the hickey?" His face changed, he covered his neck, frustrated, then grabbed my hand. Last night the cast went out. I drank too much, we played a couple rounds of party dare, that marks from a male coworker. Just fooling around. Afraid I wouldn't believe him, Adrian took 3 days off to stay home. Those 3 days felt like we were back to our newlywed bliss, and I let the pain scab over. Then came the rumors about him and Bella. To protect his reputation, I showed up at the theater, baby bump first, ready to set the record straight. Turns out I was the one kept in the dark. Seeing him shield another woman with his own body killed whatever hope I had left. I refused to keep humiliating myself. So I told the press we were divorcing. That night, shouting "Oh you!" Sighed the sweet jolted me awake. Adrian sat beside my bed, face dark. You're awake. Why the hell did you tell the media we're divorcing? Vivian, can you stop making scenes? He pinched the bridge of his nose, exhausted. I twisted the ring on my finger and answered, bewildered, I'm not making a scene. I really want a divorce. Adrian lost control. He paced the room, laughed angrily. Just because I protected Bella? Her foot just healed, how could I let her get hurt? Can't you understand that? So to keep her foot safe you ignored me and the baby in my belly? I met his gaze, fury boiling over, and threw the question back at him. He stopped short, seeming to realize that point for the first time, then sat back down and murmured an apology. I'm sorry, Vivian. I didn't realize you were hurt that badly, I lost my head. Forgive me. No need. I pushed him away, slid the wedding band off, and tossed it into the trash can. The soft clink exploded in Adrian's ears. He stared at the ring, chest heaving. The two of us stared at each other in silence. I turned my head away, no longer meeting Adrian's eyes, clouded with confusion and resentment. Right then Adrian's phone rang, and Bella's feeble voice drifted out, "Cross GE, are you still at Eastbrook? I'm a little hungry." Adrian's expression softened. Without another glance at me he stood to leave, tossing back, I haven't agreed to a divorce, so don't even think about it. The day I was discharged, Mason pulled up in the nanny van and greeted me with a grumble. I swear, the moment I hit Eastbrook I saw Adrian buying food for Bella. She's not even hurt, so dramatic. Mason, stop talking about them. I'll be divorced soon anyway. Inside the car, Mason rested a hand on my full, round belly and asked worriedly, so after the divorce, what happens to the baby? I gazed out the window, the evening breeze brushing my face, and said calmly, the child is mine, I'll take responsibility myself. I won't consider an abortion at this stage, that's also taking responsibility for myself. I smiled at Mason, and admiration sparked in his eyes. Sis, you really are my sis, slaying it solo. When we reached the house I'd shared with Adrian, I hired a couple of nannies to help pack. While wrapping the wedding frames, one nanny hesitated, Madam, are these wedding albums all going in the trash? I walked over, one hand bracing my belly, and spotted our blissful smiles in the photo, utterly ironic now. I stomped and shattered the glass, throw them all out. While sorting lingerie, I noticed a tie missing from the nearby box and asked, where's the red plaid tie? Nanny Sarah came over, thought a moment, then smiled. Oh, right, cross-picked that one specially to wear today. My eyes dimmed, without a word I shifted my clothes farther away. That red plaid tie was the birthday gift I'd just given Adrian. But belated affection is cheaper than weeds, what's the point of wearing it now? After Mason had the luggage carted to the Sterling estate that belonged solely to me, I bade final farewell to the home I'd lived in for 2 years. As I slid into the car, Adrian happened to return, our vehicles brushed past each other. I caught sight of his coldly handsome face, tightly drawn, brows deeply furrowed. Adrian only shows that expression when he's furious and uneasy. But it was over now, I would no longer care about his every move. On the dining table inside, I'd left the signed divorce papers. Once Adrian added his signature, we'd be completely finished. Little did I know, things were far from over. The first day back at the Sterling estate, Dad called. After I'd announced the divorce in front of the press, the news swept the city in 2 days' time. Dad was no exception. He'd disapproved of my marriage from the start. In 2 years he'd never once phoned. Startled, I picked up, dreading another scolding. You finally answer every major thing, and you never consult me. As a Sterling daughter, how could I let you suffer tea? His insult? At his familiar voice, tears flooded my eyes, grievance and fury poured out. Dad. The moment I choked out his name, most of his anger melted into a sigh. Enough. Have the baby safely, come home for dinner when you can. After chatting with my parents for ages and hanging up, every dark feeling had vanished, confidence renewed, I braced for a new life. Days passed, Adrian still hadn't signed. I couldn't resist calling to push, Adrian, sign it quickly so we never bother each other again. The baby is mine, split everything else however you want. Adrian stayed silent, then suddenly laughed. Vivian, you really have no shame. I froze. How did asking for divorce, even giving up marital assets, make me shameless? Before I could speak, Adrian, barely containing rage, spelled out, take your anger out on me. Fine, why drag in innocent people? Bella did nothing. Why wreck her career and force her to quit? Are you that unable to tolerate her? I know the Sterlings are powerful, but this is a society of laws, not some cash can crush all era. He rained curses until I finally grasped what had happened. Adrian, stop slandering me. I did nothing. No matter how I explained and denied, he blamed it all on me. You want a divorce? Vivian, dream on, I'll stall you forever. With that he slammed the phone, not giving me a second to breathe. I collapsed on the sofa, wondering how things had spiraled here. Opening my phone, I saw beside the divorce trending tags endless articles branding Bella the other woman, language venomous. But none of this had been my doing. Could it have been Dad? That weekend, back home for dinner, Mom and Dad had the chef fill the table with my favorites. Because of Bella's online roasting, Adrian had been venting on me, harassing my life. Slamming my chopsticks down, I asked gravely, Dad, I've decided on divorce. I just want to live my life, you don't need to act for me. Dad froze, not quite catching my meaning. After I explained, he slammed the table and shouted, how could you think I'd touch such trash? Me, get involved with that woman, ridiculous. He leaned back, hand on his chest, fuming. Mom quickly mediated, Wan Qing, your father's conscience is clean, he'd never do such a thing. Realizing he wasn't responsible, I rushed to apologize until peace was restored. Back home, the doorbell rang, half-drunk Adrian stood outside. Fine, I had things to say and opened up. The instant he stepped in he pawed at me, heavy frame pinning me so I couldn't move. Vivian, so leaving me makes you happy, huh? You won't come back, yet you play dirty against others? His voice grated, I kicked him hard between the legs, then slapped him. Whoever bullies Bella, go find them. I had nothing to do with it. Keep harassing me and I'll call the officers. He sneered, eyes hazy, hands still groping recklessly. A wet, liquor-soaked kiss landed on my collarbone. Afraid he'd crush the baby, my voice cracked in desperation, let me go, you don't love me anymore, why torture me? Suddenly he leaned to my ear and whispered, Qian. Qian Qian. Alarm bells shrieked in my head, revulsion hit and I gagged, shoving him away. Even if I no longer love Adrian, I won't endure such humiliation. My retching was violent, the motion jolted my belly, sending sharp cramps through me. Undeterred, Adrian stalked closer, eyes bloodshot, resentment still unsated. I stared at the face I once loved, feeling nothing but disgust. So I grabbed the man in front of me by the hair, dragged him into the bathtub, and filled it with ice-cold water. The freezing water hit his skin and Adrian snapped awake, thrashing and sputtering in the tub. I turned away without a word, locked the bathroom door behind me, and dialed the police. Within minutes officers pulled up at the Sterling estate. After I explained what had happened, they hauled a dripping wet Adrian out of the house. A little way off, Mason rolled up in the company van, looking suddenly guilty. With one big problem out of the way, I waved Mason over and motioned for him to help me. He approached carefully, unease flickering across his face, then blurted, is Adrian mental? Why does he keep clinging to you? I ignored the question and stared straight into his eyes. Does Bella have anything to do with you? Mason's eyes went wide. An involuntary huh escaped him before he tried to mask it. But I'd known him too long, I read him in a heartbeat. I already told you I'm going through with the divorce. You don't need to fight my battles. His gaze dropped, then slid to the red mark on my neck. He pressed his lips together, indignant. I can't stand cheaters and homewreckers who trash a marriage and then stroll off into the sunset. So I leaked Bella's dirty secrets online and torpedoed her career, just to vent for you. I studied the slender, elegant man in front of me and asked quietly, then why didn't you sink Adrian's career too? Mason lifted his head, confusion flashing in his eyes. I thought, you still loved him. I gave a small laugh and smoothed his hair. I really don't. The moment he chose someone else's life over mine, my heart flatlined. Don't ever do anything like that again. After I paid to scrub the internet, every scrap of dirt on Bella vanished. Still, Adrian refused to sign the divorce papers. I didn't push him, I simply booked myself into a luxury maternity center and settled in to wait. Days before my due date, Bella, who'd vanished for weeks, showed up uninvited. I barely knew the young Broadway actress, I'd only glimpsed her once during that performance. Seeing her up close now, I understood the appeal, delicate, fragile, the kind of woman who makes men want to protect her. She asked to meet in the lobby cafe of the maternity center. I expected excuses or apologies. Instead, she opened with sneering contempt. Vivian, I didn't know you played so dirty. Did you think ruining my career and reputation would leave me helpless? It must burn, Adrian stolen away. Your baby about to be born fatherless. How pitiful. But I'm not here to fold. I'm going to take everything you have and make Adrian completely mine. It sounded fierce, yet I couldn't see what she hoped to gain by telling me. Sorry, Quinn, you overrate me. Maybe Adrian never loved me that much to begin with. Bella's face twisted, she gave a cold laugh. Impossible. If he doesn't love you, why hasn't he moved in with me? Are you poisoning him behind my back? I had no patience for her drama. I muttered an excuse and started to leave. Bella wouldn't let go. She seized my wrist and shoved me to the floor. My belly slammed into a table, pain exploded through me and I could barely stand. She leaned close to my ear and whispered, I know it wasn't you, it was your little assistant. I've already sent men to chop off his fingers. Did you honestly think I was easy prey? My eyes widened, cramping ripped across my abdomen. I couldn't speak, could only picture Mason's bloodied hands. Seeing the panic on my face, Bella smiled in satisfaction and walked away. Staff noticed the commotion. One of my prenatal nurses whipped out her phone. They rang for an ambulance, and, on their own initiative, called Adrian. As they rushed me to Eastbrook, I felt warm fluid seep down my legs. A nurse shouted, her water broke, move. Adrian actually arrived in time. He gripped my hand and promised to stay, told me everything would be fine. But all I could see was Mason bleeding. I begged the man in front of me, Adrian, find Mason. Bella said she'd cut off his fingers. Stop her, please. Adrian frowned, half laughing. Vivian, what nonsense. Bella's a timid little thing, she'd never orchestrate something like that. If I hadn't seen Bella's savage face myself, I wouldn't have believed it either. I swallowed a sob and pleaded through the pain, Adrian, I've never asked you for anything, please, just this once. I'm not lying. Tears slid down my cheeks, misreading them as affection for Mason. Adrian cooled and refused. I'll stay right here. Stop imagining things. That pansy's been asking for it. He's probably sniffing around you now that we're divorcing, but I won't let it happen. Doctors and nurses swept me away. I kept my eyes locked on Adrian, pleading over and over. All I got was, no. Bella isn't like that. What exactly is Mason to you that you're begging for another man? If he dies, he dies. 2 grueling hours later, I finally summoned the strength to deliver a baby girl. Every ounce of energy drained away, and I slipped into darkness. When I woke, Adrian was cradling our daughter, his heart visibly melted. Vivian, look how cute she is. Maybe we don't have to divorce? I glanced at the infant, said nothing, and turned to call my parents. While we waited for them, Adrian kept murmuring sweet apologies, as if the child had awakened some domestic dream in him. I remained calm and silent, shutting down every attempt at conversation. When Mom and Dad arrived that evening, Adrian was politely escorted out. I exhaled in relief, yanked out my phone, and dialed Mason, busy signal. Mason is an orphan my father took in, we grew up side by side. To me he's not just an assistant, he's the kid brother I never had. Bella blames whoever ruined her career, and she's clearly out for blood. After a dozen calls Mason finally answered, voice hoarse. Vivian, I'm fine, just woke up, still groggy. Relieved, I hung up, only to receive an anonymous video at midnight. Shot in a gloomy abandoned warehouse, it showed Mason surrounded by hulking thugs, beaten mercilessly. My heart clenched, cold sweat slicked my palms. Bella's voice floated in, see? I keep my promises. On screen, Mason lay in a bloody heap, barely breathing. She wanted to rattle me, to break me right after childbirth. I clenched my fists, hatred flooding every vein. No more mercy. On discharge day Dad came to take me home. Before we left, I turned to him with one request, Dad, can you help me look into Psalm 1? Inside the Sterling estate, the baby was being cared for attentively by my mother, and with my help Mason was brought home. The only pity was that the thugs who'd caused the trouble scattered too fast, nothing incriminating was left behind. With my father's help, however, the private investigators quickly dug up every last detail of Bella's family. They discovered her older brother runs with the gangs. And while Bella appears on the surface to be just a stage actress, in reality she quietly helps her brother handle business best kept in the shadows. I gathered the evidence, phoned the police the same night, and called a press conference the very next day, streaming the whole thing live from start to finish. At first Bella had assumed Mason was some small assistant easily ignored at my side, never realizing he was also the Sterling's adopted son. With every scrap of evidence laid out in front of the cameras, I spoke the truth without holding back. It wouldn't stop with Bella, her brother's entire operation would be taken down alongside her. Following the leads I gave them, the officers traced the network, and within days everyone involved was arrested and hauled into court. No one could believe the angel-faced Bella lived such a gaudy double life. The story rocketed straight to #1 on the trending list. Netizens even pulled up proof she'd once worked as an escort, shattering her perfect image in a heartbeat and dragging her earlier homewrecker expose down with it. After the press conference, Adrian called, frantic. I didn't hang up this time. I agreed to meet him at the upscale Riverside nearby. I saw the morning news, what Bella did. I'm disgusted. Having seen Bella for who she really was, Adrian was stunned, a flicker of belated regret in his eyes. I'm sorry. I never imagined she could go that far. I thought everything you told me was just to drive me away. I set my water glass down and laughed sharply when he finished, the sound icy. Adrian, when have you ever trusted me? His expression froze. He stared at me helplessly before he managed a single sentence. I know you're furious because Bella and I were too close. But she twisted her ankle that day. As her co-star, I had to help her. I admit, for a moment I thought I felt something, but it was an illusion. The one I love has always been you. As he spoke, he grabbed my hand in clumsy desperation, his voice cracking, begging for forgiveness. I yanked my hand free, revulsion sweeping through me. The whole sordid tangle with Bella, and now the stale affection from Adrian, left me exhausted. I won't deny I once loved him enough to defy my family, loved him enough to announce our relationship to the entire internet. So what? He still betrayed me while I was pregnant. That's a line that can't be uncrossed. Forgiveness is impossible. Seeing nothing left to say, I picked up my bag and stood to leave. Adrian wouldn't accept it. He scrambled up, blocking me, trying to pull me back. I snatched the glass from the table and flung the water in his face, then walked out without looking back. The Sterling estate was ablaze with lights. I headed straight to the 3rd floor and tapped on Mason's door. Since the injury, he had been brought home to recuperate, lucky no limb was lost. Mason woke slowly, guilt flickering in his eyes, words stumbling over themselves. Vivian, I caused you trouble. I'm sorry. If it weren't for me, you might have shed Adrian and Bella ages ago. Looking at this contrite man who was practically my little brother, I sighed and stepped forward to tuck the blanket higher around him. You've always been family to me. I know every reckless thing you do is for my sake. But everything's over now, so don't ever do anything that stupid again. Mason let out a muffled sob, shoulders trembling, grief spilling out. I understand, sis. Adrian refused the divorce, so I marched straight to court and filed. I walked away with full custody of our daughter, and dairy penny I'd brought into the marriage, including the house that was in his name. The day Bella was sentenced and taken into custody, I ran into Adrian. He looked gaunt and haggard. Gone was the old arrogance. He drooped like a flower snapped from its stem, forcing a rueful smile as he asked what I planned to do next. I'm taking the baby and moving abroad, just a few days from now. When he heard I was leaving the country, he stared at me in disbelief, murmuring, You're not coming back? No. His gaze dimmed, voice so hoarse it was almost a whisper. Then he shifted topics. You left a few things at the house. Want to stop by and collect them? I looked at this man, reluctant to let go, not sure what he was fishing for. The day I'd moved out, I'd packed everything, even our wedding album, the last keepsake, had been tossed in the trash. I couldn't think of a single item still waiting for me. Before I could answer, his eyes brimmed, and he gave a wet little smile. You forgot the tie you picked out for me. Don't you want to take it along? Do you know why I wore that red tie you gave me the day you left? I thought maybe you'd soften, maybe stay a day longer. Never imagined you'd walk out for good. The reminder surfaced, Adrian's birthday, right after his national tour. He'd come home well past midnight. I'd waited the whole evening just to hand him the present I'd wrapped with so much care. He'd shown little excitement, just his usual quick kiss and a casual thanks, babe. Later, while putting his jacket away, I'd found an exquisite brooch in the pocket. I'd shrugged it off at the time, assuming it was a prop he'd brought home from the Grand. Only later, replaying that night after the scandal broke, did I realize Bella had probably placed it there herself. And Adrian had pinned it to his chest without a second thought, then forgotten it ever existed. Now he'd dragged up that long-forgotten birthday gift, hoping it would pull me back. It felt hollow, whatever love he was Hedling had arrived too late, years too late for someone who'd already buried her feelings. Adrian, feel free to toss that tie in the garbage, because to me, that's what it always was. The day before we fly, you can see our daughter one last time. After that, you're no one to her. A few mornings later, heavy mist rolled in at Eastbrook, the tarmac still slick from last night's rain. I carried my baby while bodyguards and the nanny handled the luggage, heading toward the gate. Wait. Through the fog, Adrian rushed across the wet tarmac, soaked and shivering, shouting frantically. I paused, keeping the promise I'd made, letting him glimpse our daughter from a distance before turning away. His voice cracked, eyes bloodshot, as he pleaded, "Can you leave her this safety chain pendant?" I took the velvet box, said nothing more, and kept walking. Far behind me, Adrian stood motionless, staring at my back until sobs choked him. Once we were airborne, I opened the plain little pendant and dropped it into the trash bag tucked beside my seat. Some ties have to be severed completely. Thanks for listening to today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like and share it with friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more riveting tales. See you next time.